Well, none of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Children have to go back to the roots, yeah. None of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Children have to go back to the roots. I'm telling you now, the truth, the truth. Telling you, yeah, the truth, the truth. You have to go back to the roots, the roots. Go to the roots, to the roots. Yeah, man, you know, this is Benjamin out of the Smiling Coast, West Africa, Gambia, representing for the one and only Abu, the big man you don't know, the Soninke warrior, the man that brings the truth, Soninke warrior, the sign of enlightenment, the Soninke warrior, the righteous and the true African. Abu, reveal the truth to them, you know, no matter how them try run from it, because none of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Yes, we have to dig back the roots, yeah. Fire!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas to all of you. Welcome to the Afridamus Report. I am your host, Afridamus, reporting from an undisclosed location somewhere in Africa. I can't say the name now. So, but Merry Christmas to all of you. If you can hear me, please hit one, because I didn't bring my mic and stuff with me. So please let me know if you are hearing me before I get into the topic. Look, Audrey, I'm not gonna mention names, so I'm assuming you guys can hear me. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me in another edition of the Afridamus Report. This topic right here that I'm going to be talking about here and breaking down, you know, like most of the things that people have glossed over. Today, I'm going to be talking about Liberia, the chaos and how, the role that played, Nigeria played in the assassination of the one and only, native Liberian in 130 years, you know, because, the African people that they call African American, Black Americans today, they they were in charge of Liberia since 1822, when they brought freed slaves from southern plantations to Liberia. So literally, Liberia was a setup that it was a colony. Basically, that's what it is, and I'm going to prove that to you here today. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome all of you, and I want to say Merry Christmas. And the individual that also sent me this video, because there's a part of the video where some of you might think I have something against Nigeria. I have nothing against Nigeria. But I'm going to uncover, because this individual that sent me this video, part of the video, wanted to try to make it seem like, oh, Afridamus, look at the part, the role that Gambians played in causing the demise of Samuel Doe. And I'm not here to speak about who's a saint and who isn't, but I'm just here to shine light on how Liberia's history, literally, we've watched it for years, how the history of Liberia was actually whitewashed. Because let's be real, people, the Black Americans, because at the time, these people, you think about it, slavery happened, the transatlantic slave trade. All of you know this. So Black people in America, they lost their identity, you know, over generations because of slavery. But not completely, not completely, okay? Um, Over time, they had what they call the abolitionist movement. These were people, white people, who were against slavery. They were fighting to end slavery. And it wasn't only just white people in the group. There were blacks there. There were blacks who were, totally against this, and they have the intelligence to fight against it. But that was in the minority. This was a white movement, because we all know, like common sense would tell you, obviously, the free people would have more, the word free, they are free to do what the, people that are enslaved weren't allowed to do. But there is, human spirit. You have to think about that, because some people, it doesn't matter what situation they find themselves in, their nature will not allow them to just surrender. And there were many, you know I mean, that's usually in the minority. Let's just be real, okay? Let's just be real here. How many people would rather just pretend like they're against their own quote unquote oppression? Because I hear people talk about this all the time. Like, oh, if I was living back then during slavery, I would do X, Y, and Z. In all honesty, you know, people forget that this is recorded. It's not real. Many people, like did not fight against it. Just like today, anywhere is no different than where people are oppressed in nations. It's only the minority that would, not only will speak about how much they resent what is happening, they would even take action. So it was no different than in the plantation. But for whatever reason, Liberia was chosen by the American colonial, society. These people, they set up Liberia as a colony. So you had people, some of these former slaves who, they were convinced by because they don't want to be under the control of their, of quote unquote slave masters at the time. So some of these families, they chose to, rather relocate to Africa. They call it their motherland. They don't know exactly where they came from, but they came to Africa. Liberia and Sierra Leone was one of the stops. But let's not forget, because I hear people say, oh, it was Black Americans that founded Liberia. So you understand now, when you listen, don't listen with emotion. People are using colonial terms when they are describing the relationship between Black Americans that went to Liberia and the actual people that lived in Liberia. Because all the ingredients of why Liberia was colonized by Black Americans, all the ingredients that make up what a colony is right there. Because when you're reading about the history of Liberia, who are they talking about in those books? They're talking about the quote unquote Americo-Liberians, the Liberians, the blacks that came from America to Liberia. But there were people in Liberia. There were the native tribes in Liberia. In fact, they used to refer to them, the Black Americans would refer to them as the Aborigines or the natives, the bush people. So these two groups of people, the only thing they had in common was the skin color. So this is why when I was explaining colonialism in blackface, many people were getting emotional because they have been brainwashed to believe, because like even the word oppression, the oppressor, and you know um, the victim, they would say, they will colorize it, they will try to paint it, gloss over it. But you and I that lived in countries that is majority, that is ruled by blacks, we know different, because we know that oppression doesn't have color, dictatorship doesn't have color, humans are humans. But you see, those Black American colonialists that came, which Liberia, the country known as like that, what they called it today, was bankrolled by the colonialist society. They were the ones paying for it. Because think about it, ladies and gentlemen, people who are just free from slavery, they've been enslaved for generations. where would they find, where would they get money and resources to just go start, a country, and build it a place where they have no clue about. They don't have any money, no nothing. Someone was behind it, and that someone was the organization, the American Colonialist Society. So this is why when you read Liberia's history, you do your research. If you don't believe me, go do it yourself. The history is centered around the Black Americans that went there. But the Black Americans found people there already. How come those people's history, is not taking center stage, even though they are the majority? This is what a colony is. When a different group of people go to a place, they take over, now, because all the history, if the history is centered around the education, the language, because mind you, the Black Americans that came, they did not speak any of those Liberian languages. They spoke English. They were Christians. They practiced American culture. So the people they found in Liberia are just Africans. They belong to tribes. They didn't practice this culture. They weren't Christians. They did not speak English. They they had their own system of doing things. But now, okay, you do realize in African countries, when you hear about colonialism, you do realize it's not, or you don't need a whole bunch of people, millions of people to go to a place to colonize it. That's not how it worked. If you change everything, your administrative work, how you interact with, do international trades, the languages you use, if your language, if you can use your language as the representation of that territory, okay, your way of life, your history is what takes precedent. Your form of worship, you get the point. If that's what decides things, that's what colonialism is. I know many like to think of it in terms of, just the oppressive term, putting people in chains, and that's just a grim side of it. That is a possibility, but in many cases, all you need to do is to be able, to change the hearts and minds of those people that you want to colonize. Okay, so Liberia was bankrolled by the American Colonialist Society. Okay, and several families moved to Liberia. So Liberia became quote unquote independent, because they like to say, "Oh, Liberia is the other country that wasn't colonized." No, was you see what they are living out wasn't colonized by white Europeans, but they were colonized by Black Americans. You see what they are living out? Because already I've given you the criteria of what colonization is. I've given you that criteria and the definition. So now during I did my research, people, and I found videos where one of the videos really, they did a great job, because it matches what I read upon, what I know to be true. And I would walk you through this. You guys know how I do it. Fair use. I'm going to break down the video, and it will give us brief history of this Liberia that you hear about. What is, who truly colonized Liberia? How did Liberia get to where Liberia is today? Are people just trying to sell you this story? Because I heard some people on this internet here saying, "Oh, my ancestors colonized. Hey, oh, my ancestors, we built Liberia." If you like, because I know people are always fishing to be related to other people. I don't understand this, but I see it all the time. If those Black Americans are moved to Liberia, you did not come from their loin. You did not, you are not one of those people, no relation. They are not your ancestors. You're not related to them. You're, you're not the same group of people. But hey, for some reason, people come out here and they comfortably say this. And in many words, they will be telling you how, they will be telling you about how these people that went over there, we are related to these people. We are one and the same. We discovered that country. In fact, I heard some of them saying those people there were being enslaved. There, the Black Americans freed them. This is in fact not true. They, because think about it, these people are ex-slaves themselves. They were born in slavery. So all they knew was plantation life. This is what they know. People, let's be honest. How can you give what you don't have? It's not possible. If they were raised on, as slaves in plantations, the only way they would know how to, you know, treat someone else that they have power over is how they were treated in those plantations. So they brought that plantation culture over there. So how do you think they treated the aborigines, the natives over there? So those of you that like to say, oh, it's just, you just gotta be black, we all the same people. Why did they make the distinction between the, because they call them Americo-Liberians, the Black Americans, and the Liberians that were there? In fact, the same terms when you read white European colonial books, the distinction they make between the Europeans and us, the Africans, the terms they use is the same term, the same exact terms that they are using when you read these books. Even the people of Liberia, the Black Americans who came from those people that moved there, the terms match what's in those books. And the Black Americans are the Westerners. They are the Europeans. Because to be European is not only the skin. Pretty much, okay, they're saying the Liberians, there's difference. The Aborigines and the ones that came, the colonialists, there is a difference there. So if it was just about skin color, like most of you try to pass up as the criteria, they would have never made that distinction. But now let me, okay, Adoa, just be patient with me. Just be patient. Nigeria, I'm going to bring Nigeria's part into this. I'm just giving you a brief history because I want people to understand, the genesis of this chaos. Okay? Because the things you're seeing in Liberia did not just happen out of the blue. But let me play this video, so you understand exactly what I'm saying and see the dynamics between, even the pictures, the dynamic, the difference between the Americo-Liberians, meaning the Black Americans, and, the quote unquote, the Aborigines, the natives. Like, literally, when you're doing this research, you would think you're reading about the outback of Australia, where they're calling the the dark skinned ones, the Aborigines. So the Liberians, the Kra, the Gar, all those tribes, they were considered the Aborigines and the natives. That's what they were called. So the Black Americans are the colonialists, and you will see that here. Give me a second. Let me put this up. Just be patient.
A president whose eventual demise would lead to the onset of the Liberian Civil War, Sergeant Samuel Doe, a president whose eventual demise would.
So this is going to give you a brief history about Samuel Doe. Samuel Doe, he's the first actual full-blooded native Liberian who, became who became president in Liberia. He was a soldier, and it's obvious you're gonna hear the dynamics here. He ended the 130-year colonial rule of Black Americans in that country. And you're going to hear that in this video. So people that are telling you it is not colonialism, they're lying to you. Skin color doesn't matter. Colonialism is colonialism. Okay? But those of you that are wondering what Nigeria did here, don't worry. Nigeria's part did not come yet. Just relax, because now Liberia, because mind you, prior to Samuel Doe, there were 21 presidents prior to him, all from America, all Black Americans. No native Liberian could be president. They deprived them of education. They just put them in subservient roles as their slaves. They didn't allow them to be in the government like that. But the only way, Samuel Doe, he was a soldier. Okay, in 1980, he did a coup. I don't want to ruin it for you. Let me allow this narrator to show you with pictures as well.
In this video, we are back at looking at the country of Liberia. We focus on the life of Master Sergeant Samuel Doe, a president whose eventual demise would lead to the onset of the Liberian Civil War, which wreaked havoc on this country. Samuel Doe had risen to power after staging a brutal coup to depose the government that was made up of Americo-Liberians, and he became Liberia's first president of exclusive indigenous heritage.
Did you guys hear that? He became Liberia's first president who's not from the Black American lineage. Even Charles Taylor, that you're gonna hear about eventually. Charles Taylor, his father is one of the Americans that came there. So just stick with me here. You're gonna hear, and I'm just giving you the history, but I'm going to also give you Nigeria's part.
It was quite ironic that on his ascendancy to power, he did so via brutal means, and so would be his eventual demise. In this video, we take a look at the rise to power, eventual demise, and death of Liberia's Samuel Doe. If you're new to this channel, don't be shy to subscribe and to click the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new content. Samuel Kenyon Doe.
I see people fighting in the chat about were there Caribbeans. Yes, there were people from Caribbean islands, but the majority of the colonialists they were from America, but there were Caribbeans.
Was born on the 6th of May in 1951. He was born in a small town called Tuzon in Grand Gede County in the southeastern part of Liberia. His parents were poor and uneducated like most rural Liberians, and they belonged to the Kran tribe. Samuel Doe had only accomplished primary education when he became a career soldier, presumably because of lack of other job opportunities.
Did you hear that? So Samuel Doe, of being one of the natives. So the natives, this was what their experience were. Their opportunities were limited. So all they can be is soldiers or cops on the street. They have to take those jobs. Because the Black Americans were the elite group, they were not doing those jobs. You see? So Samuel Doe became a soldier, because there wasn't any other opportunity for him. So let's continue.
According to reports, he gained a reputation as a skilled sharpshooter and a hand-to-hand fighter. Samuel Doe was promoted from a private to a corporal and first sergeant within 2 days in 1975. He would undergo training at a camp in Liberia, and this camp was run by United States Special Forces, or Green Berets. And in 1979, he would become the Master Sergeant of the Army. Like other indigenous Liberians, Doe resented the privilege and power that had been granted to Americo-Liberians, who were.
So did you guys hear that? Doe, being one of the natives, resented they call them Americo-Liberians. People, look, we sit here and pretend and say Liberia was in being colonized. Let me tell you, there were many colonialism, places, that were colonized in Africa. It was done in secret. Did you know that the Congo, King Leopold of Belgium, the Congo was his personal colony? Even the white people didn't used to, be with that, right? But he did it in secret, in disguise. They were doing it as if, they are going there to spread the word, the Bible, until they eventually investigated him. So while people are saying, oh no, Liberia wasn't colonized, in the meantime, Liberia went under 130 years of colonization. So clearly, though a native, he had resentment towards his colonial masters, just like many other Liberian natives. They had resentment towards their colonial masters, who were Black Americans and Black Caribbeans. But the Black Americans are the ones at the top there at the time.
The descendants of the freed American slaves who founded the colony of Liberia in 1822. The Americo-Liberians are Liberians of African American descent. They trace their ancestry to free-born and formerly enslaved African Americans who immigrated to.
So people, look at this, right? Do you think this is how the natives that were in Liberia, do you think this is how they were dressing? This is how they were dressed? So these people literally are, like the culture they knew was the culture from their slave masters. So they became other people's masters. The Liberians did not dress this way. That's my whole point.
Liberia in the 19th century. In 1822, the American Colonization Society established the Liberian colony on the West African coast to send free-born.
You guys see the flag, right? You see the flag? It is the American flag with one star. What does that tell you? That flag was not the crown, the tribe where Doe came from. That was in his flag. Like, think about it, all of you that, especially Africans, right? Let's say you are in South Africa, because this problem is happening even in South Africa. You have a bunch of Nigerians coming trying to take over the place. You see how the people respond. They don't like it. Okay? They don't like it. So it's not about the skin color. It's the same exact thing. So these people, they showed up, right? They established their own America, the American flag with one star. They brought the English language. They brought Christianity. So any natives, the natives that are there, if they wanted any opportunity, they have to be fluent in English. They have to become Christians. People, let's be real. Isn't that the same way it was under the British rule in Sierra Leone, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Gambia, the French rule in Senegal? Isn't that how it was? If you really want to be part of the European system, to have position, you have to go to school and learn the Europeans' way to be part of the government, because they changed the language. We became the official. So in Liberia, it was the same thing, the same exact thing, no difference. So yes, they were colonized.
On African Americans and freed slaves back to the African continent. Now, instead of creating a land of liberty that made a clean break from the brutal past of slavery, the Americo-Liberians would go on to oppress the natives of the land, denying them political rights and acting like slave masters that they had escaped from.
Did you guys hear this? You guys thought I was exaggerating. This man did a great job with this, video narration here. Because you look at the picture, people. So those of you that were trying to fight in the chat talking, oh no, they did not enslave them, they stopped it. No, people, look at it. Look at this picture right here. You have the slave master, slave master's daughter, slave master's son, slave master's wife, another one. Now, slave back there, slave. Okay, how is this picture different from the pictures you were seeing from Mississippi back in the same era? You see black slave in the plantation like this. So they are giving that same treatment to the natives. So now you can understand that Samuel Doe, in fact, he might not be a saint, but Samuel Doe, in fact, fought to free his country from colonization. That's what happened in Liberia. Because the more I dig deep, the more I dig, the more I start understanding. Oh, okay. You know what? We just saw people, in Liberia, we thought it's just civil war. People are like, oh man, these Liberian people, they are violent, they want to fight. But little did you know, you didn't know that Liberia was under the thumb of their colonial masters for 130 years. You guys didn't know this. You were blinded by the skin color, the same skin color. That's what you were blinded by. But I'm here to break the box open for you to see what's inside, not just the label. It's not just about the label. I want you to understand it from a historical point so that you know who played what role. Okay? Because you see, we will get to the Nigeria part because that's towards the end. So be patient. People think I'm gonna blame Nigeria. I am just asking a question, okay? And you will see how even Nigeria, because in the story they try to blame Gambia and Ghana, but I will get to that here in a second. So these people, you've heard about the story about the Mayflower, right? It's an American story where the pilgrims came from Europe, because you can see, like Thanksgiving, when you hear about Thanksgiving in America, that's what the celebration is. So even the Americo-Liberians, the Black Americans, moving to Liberia, that is their version of the Mayflower. And I will prove that to you here in a second.
From the beginning, the Americo-Liberian settlers were essentially American rather than African in outlook and orientation. They retained preferences for Western modes of dress, Southern plantation-style homes, American food, Christianity, and the English language. The years of Americo-Liberian rule were characterized by exploitation of the indigenous people who...
Okay, those of you that are saying that picture could mean anything. Now, how do you explain this picture that is much, much clearer here? I don't know about you people, but me, what I'm seeing here, and someone knowing history, let me tell you, a lot of the history that I read from Congo, where the colonization there was brutal, I see the same picture. So you want to tell me that this shackle around this right here, this is not a shackle, it's just native bling bling. Is that what you guys are trying to tell me? This is just native bling bling. This is not shackle. This is, because if we call this the native bling bling, all the slave stories, all the pictures we see, it could be this, we could call it the same thing. But I'm just here to point things out, because you see, a lot of things could be happening. You can have misconception about it. Because in Liberia, the natives, quote unquote, they are the ones who are the servants. Okay, like Slayer Gem said here, she's a servant, but they treated their servants as they were mistreated as slaves. Yeah, but servant, slave, slaves were servants. It's just people call it different names, but the treatment is the same. They have chains around her neck. Yes, some people say, "Oh, they saved them from slavery." From oh, don't go to America. You can just be our slaves here. That's what was happening. Because she sure doesn't look happy. Having that native bling bling around her neck, she's not happy. So I'm guessing it's not a bling bling. These are shackles.
Still constitute more than 97% of the Liberian population. Meanwhile, the year before Samuel Doe's coup was a time of intensifying hardship for most Liberians. At the same time, there was an increasing display of wealth by the elite. The then president, William Tolbert, announced an increase of the price of rice, which was the Liberian staple food. When it became apparent that Tolbert and members of his
So Talbot right here is the last, you know, colonial president in Liberia, full-blooded Americo-Liberian, who, to end the 130-year reign. And I'm going to bring Talbot's history to show you. Even I'm gonna play, for you to hear the sounds. Sounds more American. You compare to the Liberians. Talbot sounds, even after years of them living there, they still sound more American than anything. But we'll continue.
His family stood to benefit personally from the price increases. Thousands of Liberians stood.
Exactly, Davi. Davi, you're absolutely right. Liberia was a one-party state. So that's how the Black Americans maintained the power.
Up in a series of street demonstrations in Monrovia, the capital of Liberia. Tolbert ordered the police to open fire on unarmed demonstrators.
So did you guys see what the colonialist President Talbot did? So Talbot created this system where, because Liberia loved rice. So if your colonial master want to control you more, what do? They control your survival. So put heavy tariff on rice, right? They stop the Liberians from growing their own rice because Liberians are very good at growing rice. So he jacked up the price. The people went out there, just like we saw like Black Lives Matter here. Say, oh, Black Lives Matter. So in Liberia, they said, the rice price is too high. What did Talbot do? Talbot ordered the police, not just police brutality. He said, I want you to shoot live rounds into the people. People, I don't know if you guys are hearing me. So for people that were saying Liberia was great, yes, it was great for few, but the actual Liberian people, it wasn't that great for them. So I'll continue, let you guys hear more, so.
More than 40 protesters were killed and hundreds were injured. These rice riots would create a groundswell of disgruntlement towards the Tolbert government.
This was called the rice riots. The rice riots. So the rice riots happened in Liberia, people.
So in 1980, Samuel Doe, then a 28-year-old master sergeant, assumed power in Liberia in a blaze of glory. In a surprise night attack on the executive mansion overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, Samuel Doe and his accomplices brutally murdered William Tolbert, ending 133 years of rule by Black Americo-Liberians in their...
Did you guys see? In fact, I shortened it by 3 years. It was 133 years. Liberia was colonized for 133 years.
Descendants. 10 days after President Tolbert met his brutal end, 13 of the most senior officials in his government were stripped down to their underwear and publicly executed on a beach in Monrovia.
So Samuel Doe, it was a brutal coup. they killed William Talbot right away. He was in his big mansion, like they said, overlooking the ocean. They couldn't penetrate it. So eventually they convinced him when he opened the door. But before opening the door, he went and dressed up in a white suit, because William Talbot, he's also like a evangelist type man, like a preacher. Went and dressed up first, and he got killed. But they didn't stop there. Like all of his cabinet, anyone they could lay their hands on, they executed all of them. Like this is the real scene. They lined them all up and, shoot them down.
Discarded William Talbot, Samuel Doe became Liberia's first president of exclusive indigenous heritage.
Did you guys hear that? Samuel Doe. So anytime when they said the first president, people, let's be real, in our various African countries, right? What do they say? For example, Ghana. When they say Kwame Nkrumah was the first president of Ghana, isn't that what they say? I mean, prior to Kwame Nkrumah, guess what? There were British there. They had governor as the representative of the Queen of England. They would say the governor of Ghana, right? But you see, when they transferred the power, when Ghana gained its independence, it changed to Kwame Nkrumah was the first president of Ghana. So Samuel Doe is the first president of Liberia. If you go by exactly what I'm explaining here. But let's continue.
After the coup, Samuel Doe assumed the rank of general and established the People's Redemption Council composed of himself and 14 other low-ranking officers to rule the country. He would promise the people that he would return Liberia to civilian rule and initiated reforms along those lines.
Do you guys see how the actual natives dressed? Did you guys see this? They didn't dress like the people. The people that came there didn't dress this way. It wasn't the same.
Casting himself as a liberator of Liberia's indigenous masses, he promised to put an end to the corrupt and oppressive domination by the Americo-Liberian elite and to establish a more equitable distribution of the nation's wealth. A constitution that was drawn up was endorsed by the Liberian people in a referendum held in 1984. It provided for a creation of an interim National Assembly. In the same year, 1984, Samuel Doe declared his candidacy for the presidency and founded the National Democratic Party of Liberia.
So as usual, Samuel Doe, just like many other African despots, they would set up a quote-unquote a revolution and put themselves in charge and say, look, this is just for short term, but then they want to hold on to power. So Samuel Doe, the first actual Liberian who became president, now he's about to do what the people he removed were doing, but in the African fashion. He's about to be a dictator here. Watch.
He was re-elected on October 15, 1985, over his chief opponent, Jackson of Doe, no relations, of the Liberian Action Party. However, the election was surrounded by much controversy as opponents claimed that it was fraudulent. Many political leaders had been imprisoned under the infamous decree, which made it a crime to criticize the head of state or his government. The Special Elections Commission
FBI Nigel said, Afridamus, why are you bringing up old stuff? Man, FBA, really? You have people talking about Kemet. You have people talking about 10,000 years ago, okay? They're talking about African empires and slavery. And I'm talking about something that's in our lifetime. You said old stuff. This is, we're talking about today. I've been telling you guys, I talk about what's happening, what we're aware of. This is not old at all. We have hoteps. We have people who talk about, you know, the Atlantic slave trade all the time. So this is more current than those.
Was also used to frustrate the registration of political parties. For example, some parties were unable to meet the high financial requirements for registration. This political unrest culminated in a failed coup attempt in November of 1985. Samuel Doe successfully put down a widely applauded and nearly successful coup attempt, killing hundreds, mostly members of the Geo and Mano tribes from the.
So you guys see Samuel Doe, as usual, they took it to what? Gotta, take care of the beef he had with, his tribe have with other tribes. So when people like talk about, and Africans also would do that, they would massage the tribalism stuff. I mean, some of these tribes, some of these places, I mean, the tribalism is real. Like there's some who is like healthy rivalry, but there is some who have, it's like ancient beefs that these people have. And when one come to power, sometimes they settle it with arms. So we all know about Rwanda and Burundi, but this was happening in Liberia too. So the Crown, have beef with other tribes, mostly the Mandingo and I think the Gar, but they're about to tell us here.
Remote border region of Nimba County. With this brutality, he had sown the seeds for his eventual downfall, but we will cover that later. With regards to foreign policy, Samuel Doe's government briefly flirted with Libya before aligning firmly with the United States. It is important to note that Samuel Doe ascended to power during the Cold War, so the United States were greatly relieved when Doe maintained the country's pro-Western stance, and Samuel Doe was even invited to the White House to meet the President Ronald Reagan. Liberia received more.
So Samuel Doe was a good resource for the United States. So people that don't understand how governments work, it was in Samuel Doe's interest to maintain relationship with the U.S., and the U.S. needed Samuel Doe to be on their side because of the Cold War, and that would mean they would give Samuel Doe lots of money. That's how it works. The United States bribe countries to be on their sides. So Samuel Doe was willing to do quid pro quo with them. The relationship was already there. In fact, the United States at the time, they at first opposed Samuel Doe ending, the Talbot government, ending the Black American rule there. They weren't happy about it, but they had to go along with it for some reason. They eventually had to go along with it. And at some point, they were tired also from the Americo-Liberians making lots of demands. So they are like, hey, we'd rather deal with the actual natives of that land. So that's what they are doing.
Political and military assistance from the United States in the decade of Samuel Doe's rule than it had ever received, despite an increasingly deteriorating political climate and human rights record.
Yeah, EYB Entertainment. Yes, you're right. So basically, Samuel Doe did exactly like the people he removed. When he came to power, he put his tribesmen in charge. So that's what he did.
The Reagan administration had maintained that they believed Samuel Doe was steering Liberia towards democracy. Until 1985, Liberia was the largest per capita recipient of United States aid in sub-Saharan Africa. But by the time the rebels Charles Taylor and Prince Johnson moved to overthrow Doe at the twilight of the Cold War, this support had since evaporated. Meanwhile,
hey, you guys see, Doe rocking his afro, he was ready for the White House, got his afro ready. Back then, the afro was in.
Samuel Doe also faced severe economic challenges. Liberia would experience a sharp decline in foreign investment and an unprecedented unemployment rate of over 50%. Samuel Doe tried to boost the economy by introducing a 7-cornered dollar coin as the first official Liberian.
Africa is the future. Yeah, Africa is the future. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. You find it everywhere. Even it's more toxic and more serious depending on where. But you're absolutely correct. You find, I wouldn't be surprised that you find that even in the UK. Like over here, you see some white groups. You would see like Italians and somebody who's maybe from Western Europe. You know, they don't really vibe like that. They don't like each other for whatever reason. It's just a thing.
Currency. However, this worsened the economy. By the end of the 1980s, Liberia had a foreign debt of over $2 billion United States dollars and was near bankruptcy.
Slayer. Oh yeah, Slayer. I like those sense of fashion. But yeah, so you guys see once Doe came to power, like I said, he put his tribesmen in power, and that started some beefs with, main tribe that, he started fighting with those people. So now that's bringing us into the present day Liberia and the role of Nigeria. I'm about to break that box for you. Just kick back.
Samuel Doe's brutality, alongside his favoritism of his own crown tribe, would lead to his eventual demise. The excessive and brutal reprisals of the Crown-led Liberian army against the Mano and Geo people in Liberia's Niba County proved to be an important stepping stone to the civil war that officially began in December of 1989. On Christmas Eve of 1989, an alliance composed of Americo-Liberians and Mano and Geo people united.
So you see, this is Charles Taylor here who formed this rebellion. So Doe came, removed the Americo-Liberians, but the Americo-Liberians, Black Americans, weren't done yet. So Charles Taylor, his mom is a native Liberian, but his father is Americo-Liberian. His culture, he more identifies as Americo-Liberian. So you guys see the divide began. The Americo-Liberians have to do a comeback because Liberia is seen as home. So they have to do a comeback. Charles Taylor formed his own army. You're about to hear that side too.
In the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, invaded from Côte d'Ivoire. The National Patriotic Front of Liberia.
So let me give you a little history about Charles Taylor. So for some reason, how Liberia plays a role into the Nigeria, right? So Charles Taylor, they cut it short, but Charles Taylor used to live in Ghana. But he didn't get a good welcome in Ghana. They locked him up in Ghana because somehow they were aware of his plans, because he used to work in the Samuel Doe government as a minister, but eventually, he absconded because I think they were trying to overthrow Samuel Doe. And Samuel Doe, being the gangster that he was, because that's how he operated, like a gangster. So Charles Taylor left Liberia. He entered Cote d'Ivoire, which is Ivory Coast. He was in Burkina Faso because Charles Taylor was friends with Thomas Sankara and Blaise Compaoré. Okay, Charles Taylor knew Thomas Sankara. He was friends with them and he's vice president at the time. But Charles Taylor then left. He came to the United States because he went to college in the United States. Obviously, he's descendant of Black American. Most Liberians, they will more than likely come to the United States. That's what they have connection to. So while here, Samuel Doe declared that Charles Taylor, he charged him with embezzlement. He said Charles Taylor ran with money. So Charles Taylor got arrested and put in jail, in the Boston area. But Charles Taylor escaped from prison, which is, if you read the story, is very bizarre. It looks like, the CIA let him out of jail somehow, They drove him, and he said he was free to do things on his own, but somehow he escaped from jail and made it back to Africa. He went to Ghana. He was locked up in Ghana, and for some reason, he got his, Ghana was releasing him, but they banned him from ever coming to Ghana. I want you to remember this part. So Ghana did not want anything to do with Charles Taylor because he already got locked up there twice. But there were a faction of Liberian rebels who were training in Ghana as well. So countries have little roles they've played in the war in Liberia, but I don't want to get into that too deep. We'll focus on Samuel Doe, his relationship, and how Nigeria set him up and try to blame Gambia and Ghana for it. Let's continue.
Was led by Charles Taylor, a corrupt civil servant under Samuel Doe, who was born from the Americo-Liberian father and Angola mother. However, an internal rift between the Americo-Liberian and tribal fighters in the MPFL resulted in a split led by General Prince Johnson from the...
That's Prince Johnson, who, eventually is the one that's going to capture Samuel Doe.
Nimba County, who created the Independent National Patriotic Front of Liberia. The Liberian army was soon losing control over a large part of the territory, and Samuel Doe asked Nigeria's president, Babangida.
You guys hear this? So, at the time, Babangida, who was the president of Nigeria, Babangida was a general. So you see, back in the days in Nigeria was the epicenter for coup d'etats. Like Nigeria didn't waste time. So Babangida was one of the people who came to power through a coup. So the military, obviously Nigeria in that region have the biggest military. They have the biggest military, larger population, and they have more stuff. So Samuel Doe, because in the past, the Black American president or group would have looked for their backup to America because that's who they trust. But Samuel Doe did not, trust America like that. Samuel Doe just needed the money. When he needed his protection, he's like, okay, I'm going to get my protection from, an African country close to me, because we understand each other. I'm going to get it from African. So he contacted Babangida. At the time, obviously in West Africa, ECOWAS, even today, Nigeria heads, ECOWAS when it comes to military intervention. So Babangida himself being a general, not only is his country, the force that would be in charge of this military force, Samuel Doe wanted protection from Babangida as well. And he said, okay, I'll give you that protection. Watch how things change.
With whom he presumably had common business interests for support. In August of 1990, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, sent a 4,000-man peacekeeping force to Liberia, and this peacekeeping force was known as ECOMOG. These peacekeepers succeeded in halting Charles Taylor, but they did not save Liberia's president. On the 9th of September 1990, President Samuel Doe, on a visit to ECOMOG headquarters in Monrovia, was captured by Prince Johnson. How this could happen is still unclear. A notorious vicious drunk, Johnson had himself filmed as he ordered his men to torture Samuel Doe. While he sat behind a desk with 2 open cans of beer,
So you guys see here, this is Samuel Doe captured. They put him in front of Prince Johnson. Man, I remember seeing this back in the days, even, like as a kid in West Africa. I think everyone saw this because this was recorded. Prince Johnson made sure people see this, okay? So the Nigerians were in charge of the force here, right? But I have another video that clearly explained it, how Nigeria changed around. But I want you to see this part first. And then the next video, I will explain it, and you would hear them explain how Nigeria stabbed Doe in the back.
Johnson ordered his men to strip Samuel Doe. Samuel Doe kneeled before Johnson in his underwear, quivering, sobbing, and begging. He was tortured, mutilated, and finally brutally killed by Johnson and his men, while all the gruesome details were videotaped. This tape later found its way all over West Africa, and the images of the videotape shocked the people all over the world. Samuel Doe's death would be the start of the Liberian Civil War. You can get more detail of this war in my Charles Taylor video, which I've put in the description box down below.
Okay, so people, now let me bring you Nigeria's role. So even though you saw Samuel Doe in that condition, Samuel Doe was the guy was a man of fashion. He wanted to dress like, I don't know, Americans. Here is him, just a brief video. I'm not going to play all of it, just so you get an idea of how he sounded.
To plant more. As you can see, that dry bush there, we are finished cutting under the bush, and we're just waiting as soon as the rainy season is over, then we can cut the trees down, and they will continue the planting.
Mr. President, the fact that you are getting involved in planting these crops, I think is good news for Liberian farmers, because once you are planting this crop, I think you will continue to champion the cause of the need for...
So that was Samuel Doe. Here, people, let me now show you this video. This at one time, in fact, this is the reason this person sent me this video. Was like, oh, Afridamus, you want to talk about Nigeria and other country. Now look at, your country, Gambia and Ghana, how useless you guys are. You guys set up Samuel Doe to die. That's not what happened. Let me tell you the real history. I gave you the history of Liberia. I told you about the war, and you guys saw how Samuel Doe was captured. But the story there, the narrative was a bit vague. But what I know to be true, let me show you that here, and what people know to be true of what happened. Okay? Again, remember this. The general who invited Samuel Doe was a Nigerian general. So they were already there. Okay? So imagine, so now what did they do? They brought Ghanaians, they brought Ghanaian troops and Gambian troops and put them together, and they removed their all Nigerian troop. They removed their all Nigerian troop. So now they used Nigeria, they used Ghana and Gambia as the scapegoat to make it seem like, oh, these two countries were just weak. They could not stand, the firepower. But the reality is these two countries were not there. Okay, they were not there for to return fire. They were just there for peace. Let's continue. Actually, it's a General Quino. Yes, he's Ghanaian. Sorry, but his orders was coming from Nigeria. My bad.
Where is the enemy? No one seemed to have any idea. A young rebel is seen trying to reload his magazine.
People, this is what Liberia used to look like a movie, but this is real. This was what was going on.
He is no older than 14. As they exchange fire, these rebels have no idea where the enemy is. Neither do they know where the gunshots are coming from.
So at this time, all this is happening in Liberia. They, somehow Africans are like, hey, we have to maintain peace here. We can't just allow a country like these people to just get up and start wiling out, shooting at each other every day. So they looked around. They said, which countries can go and handle this peacekeeping in Liberia? Because, they look at professionalism, professional army. So in Gambia at the time, we had a very, very professional army. People, I want you to listen here carefully, because they're not just gonna go look at some ragtag army and bring them over. That's not what happened. We had very well maintained and very professional army that we brought to Liberia. They needed the Gambian people's help. So the people that were saying, "Oh, Gambia didn't do anything," no, they had to bring Gambians there, because, in fact, in this war, most of what's his name, Charles Taylor, in his army, he had several Gambians who were fighting in this force. But the long story short, they had to bring a peacekeeping force. So to bring that peacekeeping force, Nigeria was heading the peacekeeping force, because they have a larger army and they have more equipments too. But let's continue.
In return, panic-stricken recruits begin to blast blindly into the jungle using small arms and anti-aircraft fire. In all these, Charles Taylor repeatedly tries to justify his actions by explaining that he is willing to work along with Congress and for the American people to realize that his fighters are not a bunch of headhunters over here in West Africa trying to take power with the barrel of a gun.
I have no interest in that.
The MPFL forces advanced towards Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, in 1990. They specifically targeted people from the Kran and Mandingo ethnic groups who...
So this is like civil war / what? Tribal war. That's what they had going on. So their target were the Mandingo and Kran. So the Kran people, that's the tribe Samuel Doe came from. But when Samuel Doe was in power, at this time he was already dead. Because he eventually turned on his people too, the Crown. That's what really brought him down, because he could not look to them for protection anymore. He had to look to Babangida in Nigeria. And when Prince Johnson, I don't want to ruin it, but I'll allow you guys to see. Prince Johnson, the man that captured him, what country he went to go seek refuge at after he killed Samuel Doe. You'll see that too.
Remained loyal to the Doe government. Eventually, because of the high level of civilian casualties, Nigerian, Gambian, and Ghanaian troops from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, entered Monrovia.
So you guys see that. So the troops they brought to go participate here, they put the Ghanaians and the Gambian troops together, okay? But the Nigerians were already there, mind you. They were already there. They had the bigger force.
Around the same time, an internal rift between the Americo-Liberians and tribal fighters in the MPFL resulted in a split or breakaway led by Prince Yomi Johnson from...
So you see, again, the Americo-Liberians and the natives, at first they were together, but then they had a rift. They had to break away. So, like I said, Charles Taylor, even though his mom is native, but his father is Black American. So at some point, like I said, this is a very tribal place that had to come into play. So they had a split and he formed his own group. Now let's find out. And Johnson himself, like Slayer is saying, Johnson is half Americo-Liberian too. So this is a hood beef, Bloods and Crips. So, Black people had to take the Bloods and Crips stuff to Liberia too. So they were together. They had to have a split because somebody didn't like someone's color. But whatever. Prince Johnson right here, you see him with the gun. Like I said, he's American half and Charles Taylor is half, and they split up. Now watch how it goes. I mean, this is what it would look like if you put the, like you have hood politics. Pretty much that's what it is. At one point, they were in the same gang, and then they decided, you know what, I want to be my own boss. So that's what's going on.
Nimba County, who created the INPFL, meaning Independent National Patriotic Front of Liberia. On September 9th,
Look at Prince Johnson. Doesn't he remind you of some rapper from LA? Look at the way he's dressed.
1990, Samuel Doe was captured and killed by Prince Johnson and his rebel group, the Independent National Patriotic Front of Liberia.
As gruesome as the scene was, his capture was televised live for the whole world to see.
General Arnold Quenu.
So this is the Ghanaian general, but guess where he was getting his orders from? From Nigeria. Let's continue.
Head of ECOMOG had invited Doe to the ECOMOG headquarters for a meeting and assured him of his safety from the rebels. On the morning of September 9, 1990, Samuel Doe arrived at a precarious time during an ongoing change in guard duty from the well-armed and better equipped Nigerian team of peacekeepers to the Gambian contingent.
You see, okay, this person that's sending me this, you are taking this running. So you see how they narrated this part is so biased, saying that, oh, taking guard, they change guard from the well-equipped Nigerians, taking them from guard duties and putting the Gambians there. Sir, that doesn't mean that the Gambians were not well-equipped. The Gambians were, like I told you, the Gambians, it's a professional army. Like, they would have never been there to begin with if they were not a professional army. So you guys can see, it didn't really say they were not equipped. But the long story short, the Nigerians knew what was up, right? Because they planned it, it seems like. They invited Samuel Doe to leave his secured location in the mansion. They invited him. It's like, hey, why don't you come through? Let's have a meeting. We're going to have a peace meeting. And also he's like, hey, we're going to assure your safety. Mind you, Nigerian President Babangida was in charge of all this. He promised to protect Doe. So how are you inviting a man that you want to protect, but then removing your soldiers? Your soldiers, like the well-armed soldiers, quote unquote, the well-trained ones, you remove them. But let's continue.
The Nigerian team had just withdrawn from the scene when those convoy of lightly armed personnel arrived, none of whom were anticipating any trouble.
See, look at how they are even presenting the Gambian soldiers. Can you believe this? This was the footage, but you see how they are presenting the Gambian soldiers as if they were just clueless there.
Samuel Doe was escorted to General Kwenu's office, where he was formally welcomed, whilst most of his team of aides and guards waited outside. Prince Johnson's rebels surprised everyone by suddenly arriving on the scene, uninvited and heavily armed.
Guys, do you see what happened here? Are you now beginning to put two and two together? So they invited Samuel Doe to this location. They removed the Nigerian troops because they had a lot more people and a lot more equipment. They removed them. And then now, all of a sudden, Prince Johnson, somehow, he was able to get all the information to know that Samuel Doe is going to be at this place. You see what's happening here? So at this location, it was Ghanaians and Gambians who were left, and some of Samuel Doe's people. But the peacekeepers, they were not supposed to return fire.
overwhelming and disarming the entirety of Doe's team whilst encountering no resistance. They then started shooting at Samuel Doe's team individually and later in groups. Upon hearing the gunshots from outside, Samuel Doe expressed concern to an Kwenu, who assured him that all was fine. An Kwenu later excused himself to check on what was happening outside.
He excused himself. Do you guys see what Aquino did there? Excused himself because the fix is in for Samuel Doe to die.
And was followed by his aide, Captain Coker of the Gambian contingent. Both men took cover upon assessing the situation.
So you see, so they had Captain Coker right here, who's from Gambia, you know, and you see they brought the Gambians later. So Captain Coker wasn't even aware of what was going on here. The Nigerians have already set it up and left, so that the fall people, the fall guys, they left the Ghanaian general and the Gambian over there. They're like, hey, let's switch it out. Because if you're truly in a war zone, would you get rid of your beefed up security? Or are you going to allow it to happen? And after this, right, when Prince Johnson killed Samuel Doe, guess where he ended up? He went to Nigeria. Right away, he went to Nigeria, you know, no one touched him. He lived a nice life. No one bothered him. Go figure, right, people? You want to, and even in Charles Taylor's capture, Nigeria is involved in that too. The president, Olusegun Obasanjo, he set Charles Taylor up. He's like, hey, it's okay for Charles Taylor to travel to go to Chad. But once Charles Taylor traveled, got to the Chadian border, you know, Charles Taylor was arrested. So this is why Charles Taylor said he's gonna fight Obasanjo if he ever sees him physically. Yo, what's up, Nak Mizi? Welcome in the house. But yeah.
Prince Johnson's men moved indoors, finished off Doe's remaining team, shot him in the leg, and took him captive. When the dust settled, over 80 of Samuel Doe's men lay dead. Coker characterized the incident not as a fight, but a brutal massacre. Remarkably, none of the ECOMOG personnel were shot in the carnage.
After 12 hours of torture at Johnson's hands, Doe was finally murdered. As mentioned earlier, the spectacle of his torture was videotaped and seen on news reports around the world.
That's Prince Johnson after he killed Samuel Doe. So people, you see, now you've seen exactly what I was, you know, getting at. You're not just gonna see Nigeria just show up, you know, like I'm not saying they are going to colonize, but somehow all these people, even Charles Taylor, he was eventually set up by Nigeria to be picked up. You know, Nigeria was very much, you know, involved in all these wars. But people, I'm gonna open up the line here. Let's see, it looks like somebody already requested it. I'm going to invite you guys, you know, come in and tell me your 2 cents. All right. We have the link. Come on in, guys. Please make sure, you know, you stick to the topic. Let's see. So stick to the topics, people, you know, because I understand sometimes some people might have certain topics they want to tackle, but let's stick with, what we got. The great African, welcome to the show. Where you calling from?
Hey, what's up? I'm calling from Wisconsin. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, hey, I was just calling in. I wanted to fill in a few blanks.
Yeah.
The whole Liberian Civil War. First of all, I'm a Liberian.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'm glad
Yeah,
a Liberian called in.
yes. And then secondly, I'm from Nimba County, same
Uh-huh.
county as Prince Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm from the mono ethnic group. So
Okay.
as the war. I hear a lot of reference to Americo-Liberians,
Right.
and the rift between Americo-Liberians and during the whole Charles Taylor uprising. And I can assure you that it was not something with Americo-Liberians. What happened internally? You see, Charles Taylor came and he felt threatened because what happened is prior to this Civil War, you have to go back to 1985
Yeah,
when there was a general.
yeah, but before Kwampa, but before you get into that, right?
Yeah.
With the history, because when you read about Liberia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree that, like, even though people don't want to characterize it as that, but if you really read about like Black American history, because that's what takes precedent, would Liberia, wouldn't you consider it a colony?
Well, for me, I don't look at Liberia as a colony in a sense of colonization, because there's two different types of ways you can look at it, right? For example, Liberia is not a colony because number one, all the other colonies in Africa were either French, Portuguese, British. So there's a connotation to colonization that does not apply to Liberia. Okay,
Okay,
Liberia was created as a refuge. Okay, and nobody
what
was
I'm saying,
interested in colonizing it
but,
for. Go ahead.
but Liberia, if you look at the
Uh-huh.
setup, right? The group that set it up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
all the criterias, what you would consider, as what African countries are considered to be colonies, right? Like, because English is not the language of the people of Liberia,
No. So
right?
what I want to explain, I agree, but what you need to understand, and everybody needs to understand about Liberia is unique. It was not a colony. We did not take on. We got $100,000 to get started, but from the United States government, and for the most part, we were on our own.
But
You understand?
wait,
Unlike,
wait,
hold
wait.
on.
When you say
Unlike,
us, you have to be specific.
when I say us, I'm talking about Liberians, Americo-Liberians, because you have to understand this. The narrative of Americo-Liberians versus the native is true. You understand? There were obviously cross-cultural misunderstandings. There were problems because you have people who left and came back 200 years later. They were Christians. They looked at the natives as pagans, right? So there was a natural rift, a natural problem that we had. Okay,
They
but
changed the natives to speaking English and becoming Christians, right?
correct.
Okay.
They
All
did
right.
they did
Go on.
introduce Christianity. They
Mm-hmm.
introduced obviously the English language. But
Mm-hmm.
what you have to understand too, right? Liberia, as you know it,
But okay, so they
but
introduced, right?
yeah, they introduced. So we
So
can talk
so
about
how is that?
the.
How can you not call that a colony?
Okay, let's explain to me. Okay, for example, Gambia,
Uh-huh.
you had a representative of the British government,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who ran Gambia as its own protectorate. Okay,
You said who what?
they ran basically Gambia was set up by the British. Sierra Leone was set up by the British. Senegal was set up by the French.
Mm-hmm.
While Liberia, yes, it was set up by the American Colonization Society. There was no American government where we had American troops where American governments
They
had
didn't have,
it
they
was
didn't
like
have
a,
British troops in Gambia either. So
well,
if
they
you look
were,
at,
so who did they get, who did they get in? So listen, the reason I was calling in is this, okay? So I'm just explaining to you that there is a difference between Liberia, why all of the academics say that Liberia and Ethiopia are the only countries not to be colonized by a European power. Okay, those are facts. So that's not the
yes,
debate.
well,
The debate is not that's not the
when they
debate.
said, okay, not by European power, right?
Not by
That is
European
true.
powers.
But if you look at it, right? If England, I'll give you Gambia for example. If Gambia's official language was in English, if the British did not come and change the official language to that, you know, introduce their form of education, right? If
Of
they didn't
course.
introduce that, you cannot call it, you wouldn't be able to call it a colony. But the only way, for example, Congo, right? Congo wasn't colonized by Belgium initially. It was
It was colonized by
by,
a business.
by one man,
By the king.
by
Right.
the king.
But the
As
king is the
wait,
king was the absolute monarch.
yeah,
You understand?
but no.
So Liberia, bro, Liberia
Let me finish.
is not. Listen, I understand. I came for a different reason than we're talking
Okay, go
about
ahead.
whether or not
I'll let
Liberia.
you get
Yeah,
on.
why is Liberia a colony or not a colony? It's not important. The
Okay,
bottom
go
line
ahead.
is, the bottom line here is this. I wanted to bring some points of clarification to your report that you are doing. You've done some of your homework, and I want to fill in some of the gaps.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So the civil war in Liberia was not between Americo-Liberians and natives. 1980 coup definitely was Americo-Liberians and natives. But the 1980 coup was orchestrated by other people. I don't want to even say names because I don't want nobody to mess with me. It's not possible for Samuel Doe, a master sergeant with 11th grade education, General Kuyongba, also a high school dropout, to orchestrate a coup and overthrow an entire government. What happened there is President Talbert, who was a progressive, he was a progressive Americo-Liberian president who was starting to open things up for the so-called indigenous people. However, he made a mistake. While he was the head of the OAU, the Organization for African Unity, he made certain declaration that Palestinians have a right to self-determination, and he was against apartheid South Africa. South Africans, the South African National Congress, okay, the ANC, they travel on Liberian passport. Liberia was used as like a covert operation against South Africa, okay? And then he somehow managed to get most African countries to cut off diplomatic relations with Israel.
But what about, I understand all that, but I'm talking about what led up to it, like
the civil war that we're
riots
talking about, the civil war that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Hold on, brother. The civil war that happened in Liberia was a rift between two people, not Americo-Liberians and country people. It was a rift between General Kuyongba and Samuel Doe.
Right.
Okay. General Kuyongba had a rift with Samuel Doe. They were supposed to return the country to civilian rule in 1985. General Kuyongba was popular with the armed forces. Samuel Doe sacked him as the commanding general of the armed forces of Liberia. So that led to a rift where then Kuyongba came to try to overthrow Doe. So then that became a problem because Kuyongba was from Nimba, Doe was from Grandjita and Kra. So there's where your tribal divisions start to happen. Nothing to do with Americo-Liberians.
I know.
That's
I
strictly,
know that
that's strictly Samuel Doe. Unfortunately, you know, you got when two elephants fight, the grass suffer. You understand? Prior to this whole crap, we didn't have the level of tribalism in Liberia. The only thing we did was made fun of what one another tribe ate and those kinds of things.
But are you saying there was no animosity in resentment for the Americo-Liberians being...
No, that's not what I'm saying. There was resentment to Americo-Liberians. I'm telling you specifically. I'm telling you specifically what caused the Civil War.
Yeah, because if I was going to say,
telling you that it's not an Americo-Liberian problem. Americo-Liberian problem was dealt with in 1980.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, that's what you're saying, but
that's what I lived.
But even Charles Taylor himself, like I watched his entire trial. He gave us the history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even Charles Taylor himself, said this. Like I'm not because
Charles Taylor, I watched his trial as well, brother. I understand what I'm trying to explain to you.
Mm-hmm.
This civil war that we lived in Liberia is not a civil war. You had Americo-Liberians on one side with AK-47.
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm saying. That's not what we're saying here.
It's not that. So if you say that Americo-Liberians supported Charles Taylor, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. If you say that, because
I'm not saying that there was African, Americo-Liberian on one side and the other ones on one side. No, Charles Taylor himself, because it said here, people supported him. It wasn't like America.
Yeah, when he ran for president in 1997, he won 75% of the vote. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not like to say that there was this deep-seated animosity towards Americo-Liberians. The Americo-Liberians, there was a problem. Yes, they set up a system where they try to maintain themselves at the top.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Liberians that you see with so-called Americo-Liberian names are not actually Americo-Liberians. They are people who, the same system where, black people, when they were with their slave masters, to change their name, a lot of the natives who live with Americo-Liberians as houseboys and house girls and went to school, they took the names. Okay? So, of Americo-Liberians. Prince Johnson, I can guarantee you, is not a half Americo-Liberian. He's not. It's just that
African.
He's a full-blooded African. He's from Nimba. The man speaks every single language. He speaks Mano, Gio, Madingo, Kran. He speaks all of that shit. So the thing with what happened with and I know him personally anyway. But the thing with what happened with Doe, I know you're trying to defend the Gambian contingency. What happened here, bro, is bigger than Nigeria. Okay, when you watch the tape and you see Prince Johnson's on the phone, he says, "Sunshine, this is Tango. Sunshine, this is Tango."
Yeah.
Who is Sunshine? Is it Nigeria or is it the U.S. Embassy? You understand? That's when Doe was already in his possession. Okay, so if Nigeria was involved, they were a tool. Doe became an embarrassment to America because Green Beret trained his troops. You understand? Doe caught up what Tolbert did. Doe reversed. Doe reestablished diplomatic relations with Israel. The CIA.
I saw where Doe, with America, like there was distrust that built up. They said they could have stopped the war, but did the war?
They wanted the Americans. But 1 second, the Americans were already done with Doe.
Yeah, let's
That's
allow.
why they set him up.
Let's allow Two Niger for a second, okay? Two Niger, welcome to the show.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Two Niger. So Two Niger, thank you for coming in today. This is a great show. And I'm guessing you're gonna love this one. I know you're gonna come here and thank me for setting up such a wonderful show. So Two Niger, from what you see, don't just focus on the title. I would hope you were watching everything that's been laid out here. Tell me the role. What role do you know that Nigeria played in the demise of Samuel Doe? Do you think, like the great African said, is this bigger than Charles Taylor? Oh, it's bigger than Babangida? It's bigger than Nigeria? Which one is it?
I see. I have to thank you for having me. And this guy that is I don't know his name. Whenever it comes to Liberia, he seems to be quite. He knows a lot about that country and what is going on there. So I have to defer to him on many of the facts behind the tales on this one. Samuel Doe's this in assassination. You showed the video now. Was one of those videos I first saw in Nigeria, and it was very, very, for me as a young man then, quite traumatic to see that the way they were treating a head of state and a former head of state, treating him like an ordinary person, cut his ears off and stuff like that. It was just horrible
Yeah.
treatment that he was given. And he made this gentleman here made a statement just now. He said they were calling for sunshine. That should tell you everything you need to know. Something was going on there. And security, you said something very interesting too. You said security was loose.
Yeah.
Around Samuel Doe. Guess what happened to Haitian president this year? Same thing. His security guard, not even one of them died. Our own people betray our people.
Yeah.
And we have to be aware of that. And I think
Tunaya, I understand, but can we not go to Haiti?
Similarities.
The brother's giving you a point that
the Haiti situation is completely different from Liberia.
It's similar. I just give you the similarities.
Okay.
So, and the similarities there tells you that people around our leaders think that they are working with people, then those people that they are working with betray them. The same thing, this kind of call that this guy just said just now, sunshine, happened again with Haiti too. He was calling out for help and nobody came because they sold them, they made a deal and decided to sell them off. I don't think Nigeria has the how do I put it, the allowance to just do something like that. You have to understand these things. You have to take. You have to. All these nations, they answer to people. You have to understand that.
Yeah. Okay. Great African, you've watched the trial of Charles Taylor, right?
Right.
And okay, the reason why I'm putting Nigeria in this equation, because you remember what Charles Taylor explained, how he was captured. He felt like he was truly betrayed by that president.
Correct. And he was set up. He was betrayed.
Set up, right?
Yeah.
And also, if you look at it, right, Prince Johnson. I mean, because this is something to look at. Prince Johnson, when he killed, Samuel Doe. I mean, after that, he was living in Nigeria until his return. So my point is, okay, how is Prince Johnson? Like he was free, but Charles Taylor's capture was cooked and orchestrated. At
the time when Ecomoc came, those that are from Nimba, who are on the other side of the line, our assumption was and understanding was that Nigeria was there to back Doe.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So the concept of Nigeria even setting Doe up is extremely foreign to us. To this day, when I'll give you an example, a lot of Nigerian soldiers died in Liberia. Okay? A lot. And why? They were ambushed by Charles Taylor. The understanding was that, hey, you know what? These Nigerians want to keep Doe in power. Okay. So you wouldn't have Nigeria, okay, lose troops, people killed, and then turn around and collaborate with the same rebel group, a faction of the same rebel group, to capture Doe.
No, but
you understand?
But Charles Taylor did not capture him.
Charles Taylor did not. But remember this whole Civil War. Charles Taylor, Prince Johnson, they broke away. Charles Taylor, as the war moved forward, okay, when Charles Taylor used the people from Nimba because they had animosity towards Doe, okay, they joined the war enthusiastically. Doe massacred a lot of their people, so they joined the war enthusiastically, and they took over the country in 90 days, 90% of the country, with the exception of Monrovia. Right. You understand? Prince Johnson, along the way, took a small faction of that group, okay, because his mission was just to get rid of Doe. And he said it from the beginning, I'm only here to get rid of Doe. I don't want to be president. And when he got rid of Doe, he got out. You understand? So what I'm saying to you is, it's highly unlikely that the Nigerians, okay, because Prince Johnson, yes, he didn't have the bigger army to ambush Nigerian soldiers and things like that. But it's to me,
but don't you
a
find
lot
it
of Nigerians
suspicious that, as intense as things were, why would they invite him to this location from
his let me tell you what happened with this. You understand? Okay. Prince Johnson set up Doe. Okay. When you watch the video, Prince Johnson said, when you want to catch chicken, you throw rice. When the chicken comes, you catch it. You understand?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Prince Johnson was in charge, had the area that's the port where Ecomog was. You understand? So you had all the rice. Doe was held up in the executive mansion and they were hungry. So Prince Johnson sent food to the executive mansion and said, okay, Doe, you and I are country people. We need to get together and fight Charles Taylor. You understand?
Okay.
So he tricked Doe. Why do you think Doe had highly trained special anti-terrorist unit, 500 of his tribe men who were trained by Israelis? They were well trained, but Doe felt free to move from the executive mansion to the Freeport. That was all a setup.
So do you, okay, for Doe to leave, right?
Yeah.
There had to have been an intermediary because Doe relied on Nigeria to also protect him on the ground.
Correct. Yeah. Nigeria was protecting Doe.
Yeah.
As was Ecomog. I mean, all of the West African peacekeeping troops were there. So if we hold Nigeria complicit, hold on. If we hold Nigeria complicit, then we have to hold the Gambian and Ghanaians also are involved. You understand? Because you cannot be in a war situation. You know that a head of state is coming.
But
okay.
Maybe, have you thought about it? Maybe the Gambian troops and the Ghanaians, they didn't know that Doe was coming there.
I don't know, bro. There are stories that Doe was going there to leave. So
but who was the intermediary between making sure this meeting
I would tell you
between Doe and
here's what I would tell
Prince.
you. I would tell you that is more likely. Nobody knows the full detail of it, but it's more likely that there are some bigger hands behind this thing. The Nigerians, they did well for Liberia in a sense, right? Even 2003, that whole war ended when Nigerians arrived at the airport, right? And they intercepted weapons and all of these things. So I don't like to get into a thing where we start to say, oh yeah, well, yeah, it was the Nigerians that did this. But I also know that the perception on the ground, all I can tell you, the perception on the ground was that Nigeria was for Doe. You understand? So for me, it's difficult to think that, okay, we know that Nigerians were there. He was, okay, we had like Bambajida highway in Liberia, very, very good relationship with Nigeria. That was his friend. So to think that Nigeria will somehow hand Doe over to a rebel, it's tough to believe.
But in Nigeria, they played with Charles Taylor too. They made him feel safe, and then they handed him over.
They handed him over. Charles Taylor got tricked, and he definitely got tricked, and I agree with that. So anything is possible. Nobody knows.
But do you think Prince Johnson was calling the American embassy on that?
I think so. I believe that this is how things work. Okay, bro. When you look at historical things, Doe was a powerful ally of the United States. Okay, and he was a powerful ally of the United States. but he became an embarrassment. The Cold War ended in 1989. So all the things that Doe did for the United States was irrelevant now. They didn't need him anymore. Okay? And then he was massacring people, specifically my people. We talk about how he was tortured, but this is a man that massacre a village and put babies in wells because he said they were going to grow up to seek revenge against him and bury them alive. So it was an embarrassment to the United States because they're the ones who trained him. The Israelis trained his troops, all of these things. But now there's no more Cold War. Excuse me. No more Cold War. We don't need this African boogeyman anymore. Same thing they did with the guy from Congo. I don't remember what his name is. Mobutu. You understand?
Yeah.
So when they finish with you, they get rid of you anyhow. You got too many stories and too many secrets. Doe could not leave Liberia alive. Okay? Because
they weren't going to let that happen.
No, they were not going to let it happen. You have to write a tell-all book, all the dirty secrets, how Tauber was killed. All of that stuff was in the hands of, was with Doe. You understand? So if Nigeria was involved, it cannot happen without America.
Well, I still, because even you look at Charles Taylor, right? His trial, the way he explained how things went down in Nigeria and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is the thing. This is why he said he's going to fight Obasanjo when he sees him in person. Because, you know, he believes that Nigeria played a role in what happened to him.
Yeah, let's look at motive on anytime we look at things, right? I explained to you the motive of why I feel that America have better interest to get rid of Doe than Nigeria. So then what is the motive of Nigeria getting rid of Doe?
Doing the bidding of America. Like, because even Obasanjo, for example, right? Handing Charles Taylor being in Nigeria will not harm him, will not hurt him.
You got to remember this, bro. You got to remember this.
He was pressured.
Yes, that's the point.
It was not that.
It was like this. Obasanjo went, he held Charles Taylor's hand in Liberia, okay? Like he's holding a little child hand. They walk hand in hand like brothers and walk onto the plane. The intention, African brotherhood, my brother, you come, we'll do this. But at the end of the day, bro, it's like, it's not Africans don't run the world. When they said, you know what, you need to hand over Charles Taylor, what did Obasanjo do? He said, you know what, I'm going to leave it to Salif. I'm not going to make that decision. So even under all the pressure, okay, Obasanjo refused to hand over Charles Taylor except if Liberia asked for him. So the so-called African men left the decision to an African woman to have Charles Taylor arrested.
But didn't Salif herself sponsor Charles Taylor's movement?
She sponsored it. She was there. She was one of those. When Charles Taylor, when they becoming successful, Charles Taylor said, you know what, at some point he said, you know what, no more monkey work bamboo draw. You understand?
Yeah.
Or they say what in maybe Ghanaian said like monkey work bamboo chop.
Yeah.
No more monkey work bamboo draw, which means
in Gambia they say monkey work baboon eat.
Exactly. So Charles Taylor said, I'm not going to be the monkey for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf baboon. You understand? So he kicked her to the curb. So there was animosity there. They were once allies. He kicked her to the curb and declared himself president when the things got better. You understand? So when it comes to these things, there are a lot of complexities in it. I feel like the Liberian Civil War is I lived it, and we cannot look at it and just make it a simple, oh, Americo-Liberians, this and that. Let me tell you something, bro.
That's why I go deep, and you know, because see, people think I'm picking on Nigeria, but I'm not. I'm looking at, the intricacies of, the role that was played, because Nigeria was the bigger force, not only in Liberia, in Sierra Leone as well. You
Right.
see,
Think about it.
so people
Think about
think I'm just making fun of Nigeria, but no, I'm just trying to show
Afrodamus.
how the
Afrodamus.
politics work.
Think about this, okay? If those guys were all involved, including the Gambians, all of them, not a single one of them was shot. You understand?
Yes. Well,
You are in a civil war where
right.
you have 15-year-olds high with AK-47 spraying everywhere.
Yes.
And you are located in the most strategic point that everybody wants to capture, which is the port. How the hell are you not going to be armed? Changing a guard, all that crap. You said that it's a professional military.
Right.
Okay? Okay. Bro.
On the Nigerians. The Nigerians,
On the Nigerians, but it doesn't matter. Whoever was there, okay, had to be armed.
Yes.
Because you had to be well armed.
Right.
So you cannot have the head of state, the main target of the whole war, is coming to see you, and you're not armed. You're not expecting
they were
some
armed.
type of comfort. Yeah, but they didn't shoot a single shot.
Right.
There was no shootout. Only those people were shooting.
Remember at one point, the peacekeepers were not allowed to engage unless...
Bro, at that point when bullets are flying, okay, I know people where this barely survived Nigerians were dropping bombs, bro.
Right.
Okay? When the planes were flying over and you see the bombs dropping and say the plane is shitting. You understand what I'm saying? So there was the idea is like this. I feel like you're making it nationalistic. So what I'm saying to you is the whole thing that happened there, if Nigeria was guilty, Gambia was guilty, Ghana was guilty, the entire West Africa was guilty.
Hold on. Okay. Tuneja, what do you have to say to that? Tuneja likes hearing that. Is Tuneja there? Well, he's sleeping.
Maybe.
Hey, welcome. Well, thank you. Oh, is Tuneja back?
No, I don't know where he is.
How you doing, brother Afrodamus?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm great, man. I'm enjoying these holidays. Great African. How are you?
How are you, my brother?
I'm fine, thank you. Look,
great.
I'll admit, out of the whole continent of Africa, I know the least about Liberia. And it's weird because I probably should know the most about it. But my question, it was really Charles Taylor and his phenotype. Is Charles Taylor's phenotype common in Liberia?
Brother, when you say phenotype, meaning his ethnicity or makeup?
No, how he looks. You know how he looks. He looks like a Black American to me.
Yes, yeah. Charles Taylor is definitely Americo-Liberian, right? His mother is an indigenous African, okay? So the phenotype. So definitely, maybe if you check his 23andMe or African ancestry, you probably have some same type of admixture as a typical African American.
Okay, because I looked at him and I watched the video.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this dude kind of sticks out from the other people. He speaks and moves like them, but he doesn't look like one of them. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to go back in the chat and listen. I appreciate y'all. Peace.
Peace. Thanks a lot, bro. Yeah.
Hey, thank you for coming. Tuneja, are you here? I think Tuneja is he's sleeping. Let's remove it. But great African. Okay, yeah. So I know you didn't want to agree on the colonization thing, right?
No, never.
But you know, okay. So, and if you look at other parts of Africa, other countries, even including my own country, the criteria that made it fit being a colony is no different than Liberia.
Okay, let me ask you this: is Liberia a member of the Commonwealth?
Well, it's not a British, you know.
I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying. That's just
It's
one
an
aspect. It's a
American colony.
Liberia is an English speaking country.
No, but
okay,
not British though.
not British,
Not
but
British.
it's an English speaking country. Liberia is an inconvenient reaction by America.
No, but
listen. America did not go into Africa to say we want to have a colony like what the Europeans
American
did.
Government though. These people were abolitionists. You know, even because if you look at the colonies,
the best thing that you can say is that Liberia was set up by an NGO.
No, but
you understand?
But what I'm saying,
NGO.
What I'm saying, all these organizations, you know, like the colonies, only few countries where, like Great Britain, even their expeditions were sponsored by companies and organizations. That's what it's
you got
sponsored by.
the East Indian.
Yeah.
They went there for money.
So
and,
the American colonization group, I have read up on them. Liberia is not the only place where they were invested in. Even Congo, they were invested in it. They're invested in companies. So Liberia is definitely their investment. You know, I mean, you can go read up on them, find out, you know, when they set up.
We understand that Liberia was set up. It was ruled by governors, white governors like Buchanan. These are the guys that they went in and negotiated with the so-called indigenous people, and then they were able to settle. You understand? So I think what we're looking at is when we say colonized, there's a connotation to colonization, which does not apply to Liberia. It doesn't apply to Liberia.
It's a fact, though.
Liberia. Okay, you're gonna think about this. Liberia did not have the quote benefits of colonization. You understand?
What would be the benefits?
These are the benefits. The benefits, and I say that in air quotes. You understand? The benefits of colonization, meaning where they go in, set up a framework for government. They set up certain amount of infrastructure. That didn't happen in Liberia.
That's what happened in Liberia.
Was set up by refugees.
No, but that's what happened in Liberia, though.
We did not have bro. It's not even close. Liberia, we started from scratch. Nothing.
Liberia was bankrolled. They came there. The white people.
We did not have a bankroll at all, bro.
But wait a minute. The white people came there with the freed slaves from America and the Caribbean. The majority are Americans, right? They bankrolled it because where would these blacks? Where did they get the money from?
Like I told you, there was an act of Congress. Yes, there was an act of Congress where they gave $100,000 towards the resettlement of black people, in Africa. Okay. Now let me just say this:
100,000.
I'm a patriotic. 100,000.
Wait a minute. I can assure you, we can go look this up. We can read up on even Liberia's history. You would see throughout America, the Congress, they were bankrolling Liberia to a certain up to where several presidents later they said we want to do our own thing. But for many years,
no. Liberia became a nation in 1847. Okay, if you read the Declaration of Independence for Liberia, meaning we're now becoming our own nation. We were not declaring independence from a tyrannical power. None of that. We were asserting ourselves as human beings who, in America, we've been basically treated like crap.
Already in Liberia, what about them? What about them and their culture?
Yes, bro. You know what? It's like this. Keep in mind, I'm a straight up. I am an indigenous Liberian, right? You understand? So, if anybody would have an axe to grind, it would be me. You understand? However, the thing about I'm a proud Liberian, regardless of the history, regardless of how it got set up, regardless of
what happened.
Was
sponsored by the U.S. government, right?
It was sponsored. Yes, it was sponsored by the U.S. government. We got help there with that. Let me give you the story about how it happened. Okay. Let me tell you how. Because if you understand, then you will know that there's a huge difference between the colonization that happened.
I read
to what happened in Liberia. You understand?
I read it, but I'm just telling
you.
Like,
the scramble for Africa.
So how come
1857?
How come, right? In Liberia, Liberia. If you read Liberia, you read their history. It's mostly centered around Americo-Liberians, and there is a clear distinction where they are called Americo-Liberians or Congo.
The Americo-Liberians are like the equivalent of one tribe. We got 16 tribes.
But in collectivity, if someone is a Kra, Mandingo, the other tribes, they are considered the Aborigines, or natives.
The country people, yes.
But that's what I'm saying. What do you think? If you read our histories, our colonial history, what do you think the people that colonized us?
If you say like this, let's just put it this way, bro. It's the same thing when people talk about racism in America. Okay. If you say to me that yes, okay, Liberian natives were colonized by Black Americans and people from the Caribbean, that would maybe be a little bit, but it's not the same as colonized, because you know what?
How is that different?
Let me tell you why it's different. Because guess what? Liberia is the only place, it's the only place on the African continent where you have to be Black to own land. And you have to be Black to. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Still doesn't change the fact.
What happened is, if you go to Liberia today, every Liberian has access to land. Okay, that's not the case in other African countries.
I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about Wait. Okay.
Yeah. Let the brother.
We have 1 second. We have Kwesi in. Kwesi, welcome to the show.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a bit about. Thanks for having me on the show. I wanted to talk about. I have a problem with my internet, so just in case I go off, it's because of my internet, innit? But I wanted to talk quickly about how Liberia was set up, innit? From the facts, let's not talk about what I've heard here. The facts, innit? The Americans, after the end of slavery. Hold on, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Yeah, the Americans after the end of were worried of having so many freed
slaves.
They were worried that these free states could eventually turn on them, the white people.
Right.
Yes. That's
okay.
The brother's on the point. I know the point that the brother's bringing.
Yeah, I've read.
And let me just say this.
But I'm just
Haiti is the reason why Liberia was created. Let me just put it point blank.
Well, the thing is, okay.
You heard what I said?
I get what you're saying, but
okay.
But my question is, because you're saying
I'm gonna on my other device.
Oh, go ahead, Kwesi.
He's gonna switch.
Okay. So for me, right? Okay, if Liberia, if different group of people can come, regardless of skin color, they set up their own flag, sign number 1 to show dominance that we are now in charge. The education system is centered around them, their language and religion. It doesn't matter who is in that territory. Everyone has to adopt that, and that become the official. That's what colonialism is. Unless if you say
you can look at it. You know what?
Because that's what happened. That's what happened in Ghana, in Nigeria.
The official war. Let's just agree on something, and then we can go on to other things.
Okay.
Liberia was never colonized by a European power. Period.
Right. Okay. Now we agree on something.
Right. So that's that. Now, why is Liberia different? Why was Liberia a nation? Why was Liberia not part of the so-called scramble for Africa? All of these different things. Liberia is very, very unique in that sense. Okay.
Right.
The brother that was just on alluded to something that Liberia came about because after the Haitian Revolution, the slave revolts in America went up. They went up 4 times. We have 4 times as many slave rebellions in America after the Haitian Revolution.
After 1804.
Yes. You see, and it's not a miracle and a shock that by 1822, the first shipload of Americans, Black Americans, were leaving to go to Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
But how do you have all these free slaves in America?
Huh?
How do you have all these free slaves in America?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
But listen, I'm trying to give you a story here because
well, you're giving me. But what I'm saying, even King Leopold, if you read about King Leopold, you know, I read about him. He has his reason for colonizing the Congo. Whether we agree with it or not, it's still colonization. I understand where you're coming from. You're explaining reasons. Even the British.
I'm explaining that Liberia is not a colony, was never a colony in the sense of colonies, which is why Liberia and Ethiopia have the distinction of being, and why Liberia, number one, has the distinction of being the oldest republic on the African continent. Number two, Liberia and Ethiopia are the only countries never to be colonized by European power, period. Okay. Right? It's just that simple. Right. Now, look, when you look at it, see, when you study your history and you know something, I'm a indigenous Black man with an indigenous name, never changed anything to fit in as an Americo-Liberian. However, I don't have animosity towards Americo-Liberians because
it wouldn't be everybody.
No, but let me just break it down this way. Because our country was founded on certain principles. It is a principle that a Black man on the planet in 1822 had nowhere on earth to go to be free. You understand that? Liberia was the only place.
No, Sierra Leone.
No. Our people, no, they were under British. Our people that came from America. Listen,
wasn't colonized at the time, though.
Bro, why is it then that when the ship Elizabeth came from America and they went to Sierra Leone first? They were rejected. Okay, the British didn't want any part of America's problem.
No, but they had. But what I'm saying,
they had to go. They had to leave so-called Freetown and go down the coast.
But what I'm saying, like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also not only from reading. I actually spent most of my early life in Sierra Leone. Mm-hmm. So I'm, because even if you look at it.
So when did Sierra Leone become a country?
Huh?
When did Sierra Leone become a country?
Well, its own country, to be independent. That's in 1960, 1961.
Okay. Liberia became a country when?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Liberia.
1847.
Yeah, but
I'm telling you, 1822, when Americo-Liberians arrived on the ship Elizabeth, were rejected in so-called Freetown.
So how come Samuel Doe? If you look at true history, Samuel Doe is the only person considered to be the only real native Liberian, the first native Liberian to become president.
That's why I will tell you that. I'll tell you that the country, that's some of the you see, every time there's God's plan, there's also the devil working. You understand? So, yes, of course, the Americo-Liberians ruled. And that's not only Americo-Liberians. This is another thing that people always say, that Liberia is America. When you hear a Liberian speak, okay, they sound more like people from the Eastern Caribbean than African Americans. The reason is that there was a mass migration of people from the Caribbean, English-speaking Caribbean countries to Liberia. Okay, the Americo-Liberians came. They set up things. Arthur Barkley was born in Bridgetown, Barbados. He became a president. His nephew Edwin Barkley later on became president. If you look at there are a whole lot of other people from other Caribbean islands that had a hand in the shaping of what we know today as Liberia, because we had the best intellectual minds of the Black world.
So what I'm saying,
moving there.
So I get it. You're gonna insist that despite someone being able to change you know,
I just say
another
Liberia
group
was
of
never.
people. But what I'm saying, if you can, you know, it doesn't matter about the skin color, despite this group of people being able to come and change the language of the natives.
It's true.
The government structured in the way they know it to be, to a complete foreign language, because all this is foreign to the natives there. It was foreign to them. So just like
Yeah,
Congo,
it was. Yeah,
just like Congo, you know, just like Senegal, just like all these places, the English language, you know, the education system, the religion, this was all foreign to the people there.
It's true.
So
All the
when they
what we know
adopted
as
it,
present day Africa. Okay.
yeah, but when they
even
adopted
Liberia. Okay.
Mhm.
So most of our people came from Malay and settled in what is now Liberia. You understand? Our people were part of the Malay Empire. We're part of the
Right.
Mende group of languages. We rejected Islam. We left Malay and came into what is the
Nigeria.
forest, and the people that were there adopted to us. So in that case, I guess you can say that we colonized the original people that were in Liberia. Okay, 800 years ago, right? So yeah, you will always have that. All over Africa, empires expanded. Okay, so it's not the same to say, okay, when Ghana Empire expanded and sucked up all these other places, when Malay Empire expanded and sucked up all these groups, where we all started to learn to speak Mandingo and Mende and different variations of that, is that colonization as compared to what Europeans did? You understand? So the fact is that we were colonized in Africa. We had empires that we're proud of today, but the main thing that those empires did was expand and spread Islam.
No, see, I'm not speaking about this in like negative terms.
Mm-mm.
You know, I just I'm laying it out like
I know. I understand where we're talking about colonization. You know what I mean? A lot of people say that, and that's a hot button topic of mine.
Right.
Because I feel like
so
they're sucking Liberia into like this whole francophone thing. We had nothing to do with francophone, nothing. We had nothing to do with the Commonwealth. We were a completely set up country. We were looked at as stepchildren of America. Okay,
yeah,
we were never adopted to say that. Oh yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The same. That's why I'm talking about all the criteria, the category, what made these other countries being called a colony, right? Liberia, the natives were colonized by Black Americans and Caribbeans who are more westernized, who were, who were cultured in the Western system. They brought the Western ideology and
it is true.
and
It is true.
introduced it, ruled over for 130.
I'm speaking English to you today because of that. So I acknowledge that. You understand?
Now we see eye to eye.
But we're not a colony. We're not a European colony or anything. But we see it. That's cool. I wouldn't be speaking English if Black Americans didn't come to Africa. I would probably be speaking Portuguese.
Maybe.
You understand?
Portuguese
Eventually,
or
maybe.
Or French. You would have probably been part of Guinea.
Yeah, because those people were like our people. We fought them for years and years and years. You see, that's the other thing that nobody talks about. When the Black people came, they didn't meet anybody in Liberia on Providence Island speaking English, French, or Portuguese. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like this. They met native people. Sierra Leone was occupied. If you look further down the coast, you had the French on the other side. But this little 325-mile beach land was not under the control of any Europeans. This is why our brothers from America were able to settle. So our chiefs said,
this is why the American colonization society, they bought, in fact, they paid.
They paid
that land.
That's the customary thing, customary. They came, the people said, okay, my man, y'all can sit down here. Y'all can sit right here and be there.
It was the white colonizers that paid for it.
Yeah, if you read deeply, okay.
No, I read it. I'm just
the white colonizers were there, bro. But for Liberia to become a country, okay, It was the ambition. I encourage you and anybody listening to read the Declaration of Independence of the Republic of Liberia, okay? And then read the Declaration of Independence of any other African country, okay? That's where you will find out what the difference is between colonization, in the sense of European colonization, and so-called colonization of Liberia. And it's so-called.
Okay.
It's two different things. Read it.
I like your humor. Let's
Anyway, I don't want to take up all your oxygen, bro.
Oh no, you're fine, man. It's the conversation is going well.
Okay,
you know,
all right.
You're doing well. Kwesi, go ahead.
Yeah. Like when you guys speak, it sometimes breaks on my part. When I speak, I think you guys should hear me, and I'm not gonna stay long because my internet is a bit muffly in it. But I think that I was hearing the speaker speak, and I think he seemed to be more on a defensive or putting a spin on things, and he doesn't really quite seem to be getting to the whole point as to why SK Doe staged a coup in the first place. And one thing I do know is that the Americans, like I said before, they were actually scared of having so many free slaves, so they were looking for places in West Africa to relocate them. The American Navy actually went from the Gambian coast all the way to let's say Nigeria with the border in Cameroon, all the countries between there. We're basically seeing every single major chief, big chief of a tribe, to see if they can give land so they can resettle their freed slaves into that part of West Africa. A lot of the West African chiefs refused. So, in fact, all of them refused to resettle them. So, basically, what happens is that the American Navy eventually went to Liberia and found a part of West Africa that is weak enough for them to invade. They went in with the military and forced one of the native Liberian chiefs at gunpoint to sell the land to them. So the land in Liberia that was given to the Americans, and this was the American Navy operating, wasn't given to them freely. They had to force the native Liberian chief at gunpoint to hand over the land and sell it to them. You feel me? And that's when the land was given to them in the first place. So it was never really given. So from the onset, some of the natives in... No, let me finish.
They were already settled at that point.
My network is a bit things. Let me just finish now. Come off. The natives who eventually always resented the new settlers because they saw the freed slaves as they never really gave them the land freely. They were forced to by the U.S. military, especially the Navy. And what basically happened is that once the freed slaves, the Americo-Liberians, let's say, came to Liberia, they enslaved the natives on the rubber plantations, which is another thing the speaker didn't mention. They enslaved the natives on the rubber plantations. Literally, the United Nations literally had a report in the 1930s saying that the native in Liberia were living no better than slaves. They were literally being enslaved on plantations. This is an undeniable.
Charles D.B. King. I can explain that too.
Great African. He's right though. That's true.
No, what he's wrong about is this. When you talk about rubber plantation, you're talking about 1920s. When you talk about Charles D.B. King, the crew, that scandal that made Liberia to almost lose its sovereignty, where the corrupt governments of Liberia made a contract with Samuel Doe, okay, and they were told the crew people that, oh yeah, you know what, you're going to go work in this island, but in fact there was no return ticket. Okay, so that was a scandal that rocked the whole Liberian government. Okay, that's way after Liberia has already been established. You had a corrupt president.
The Navy, like I said,
the Navy. Okay, so that is true. There was a chief. I forget his name, but he after these guys settled, you understand, initially when they showed up, there was a Mandingo chief, a Mandingo trader, Chief Baswan, who could speak English. So when these guys arrived, that trader, Chief Baswan, negotiated between the natives, because he could also speak English and he spoke some of the dialects, and explained to them who these people were. So the chief said, oh, y'all, you can sit here. They gave them Providence Island. Later on, when more and more people are coming in, okay, that is when what the brother was saying, that happened. That when, you know, they were like, hey, you got to give us more land. You understand? So,
but you know, a lot of places, like Kwesi said, Liberia was not the first stop.
It was not the first stop, but let me explain to him what
other
he's not
places
saying.
rejected it.
Other places rejected it because they were under colonial master.
No, it was in the white people speaking for them, the chiefs.
Yeah, but if you go to Freetown, you go to Cameroon, you go to Nigeria, all those places were under European influence.
No, this was in 1822. They didn't colonize these places until after 1884.
They had heavy presence, heavy influence.
In 18, I can guarantee you. Even
I know that it was made official in 1857.
On the coast of Gambia,
made official.
Right?
It was made official in 1857 after the scramble for Africa.
On the coast of Gambia, right? Banjul, which eventually they even brought some ex-slaves there too. This was a British port. It wasn't set up until 1823 when they negotiated the deal. They didn't colonize these places yet. 1884.
They were right.
No, they did not, because the settlement was in there. They were, even the British were negotiating. It was entirely controlled by the chiefs, the Africans.
Yes, they were not official colonies. I can say that they became official colonies.
They were trading. They were trading,
right?
But they were not. Right. They were not. They didn't colonize them.
In other words, there was no British flag flying.
No, there was no
Cameroon
British
or French flag flying.
No, like the Europeans would fight each other, but you know,
it was like it was just basically a haphazard kind of situation.
Yeah,
in the situation, what you're saying.
But what before 1884, on that coast, like Kwesi said, the chiefs, yes, the chiefs. You have to negotiate.
Even today, even in Liberia today, you have to talk to the chiefs if you want land.
Right.
You know, you understand. But it's like our Constitution of Liberia empowers that, you know, indigenous land ownership and all of these things. That's a difference with where the Americo-Liberian, with all the issues, they also understood. You know,
so someone part of the conflict. Here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Someone just asked an interesting question. Said, why was the organization named American Colonization Society then?
Right. Yeah, it was named the American Colonization Society because they wanted to go and take free slaves to Africa. Okay. So I've already conceded that there's a difference between the colonization that you're talking about and a situation of basically people seeking refuge. You understand?
Yeah,
so it's an argument of what you say.
But the organization doing it, it's a organization.
Right. They call it American Colonization Society, but there's a difference between European powers colonizing a place.
Are you saying, for example, why would I call myself a drug dealer if I don't sell drugs?
No. Bro, okay. Let's go back to it again. Read the Declaration of Independence of Gambia, Ghana, Nigeria, all of those places, okay, and then read the Declaration of Independence of Liberia. Okay, we were not fighting when we declare independence. We were not talking about a foreign power that's controlling us and all of these different things.
No, but the Americo-Liberians were foreign to the natives there. This is why the American Navy ship had to point gun at the chief to give up the land.
Bro, that so-called American naval ship, that's
so are you saying that the black colonizers did not oppress the natives?
No, of course
because
they
even
did.
Charles Taylor talked about that.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Look, you're not understanding what I'm trying to tell you. And even in this, I told you, I said, I am an indigenous Liberian. I never, like my parents refused to get Americanized names. We all have country names. We understood the oppression. We understood that, you know what, growing up in Liberia, the indigenous, like the tribal lands up, we didn't get infrastructure. You know, it was missionaries that built schools while I even know how to read and write and speak English. You understand? So the so-called government in Monrovia didn't really expand its reach. Like my county was not officially recognized until 1964. You understand? So we even lost territory to Guinea and Sierra Leone. If you look at the map of Liberia after 1857, it was much bigger country. Okay, because we lost territory to these colonial European powers. So yes,
But
you
it
know,
was in a
Liberia.
country back then.
What, Liberia? Liberia was a country in
That's
1847.
why. See, that's why the
Liberia was a
Navy,
country.
that's why the
Liberia
Navy was able to come in and take
Navy. Let me tell you this:
American
the American Navy did. Yes, that's one story, and I'm telling you that
But it was
where
the
I come from. That's one story, one Bassa chief, okay, and one incident that has nothing to do with Nimba, Cape Mount, all these other places. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not like to say
But you
that
know,
the
it wasn't
American
only
Navy.
Americans, right?
So where were the American Army on the ground in Liberia?
But what I'm saying, it wasn't only the Americans. The British also brought, you know, former slaves from their islands.
The British didn't bring former slaves from their islands. That was an expedition. That was an expedition led by oh, damn, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's one of the intellectuals from Liberia. He actually went to the Caribbean and recruited 3,000 people.
Are you telling me
3,000 people.
So you did not read that? It was the same British that brought the people from Nova Scotia, like the people that ran to Nova Scotia and other places.
Oh, let me explain the whole story.
That brought them to Sierra Leone. Are you saying these people just
the British?
The British brought them there.
They didn't bring them to Liberia. They brought them to Sierra Leone.
And some of them, the Caribbeans, were brought by the British.
The ones that were brought to Sierra Leone from Nova Scotia were African Americans who fought on the British side of the Civil War.
Right.
Got their freedom, and then the British told them they can go to Nova Scotia. The British told the black people when they started the Revolutionary War, when Americans were rebelling, they told them to say, you know what? If you join us and fight against the Americans, these so-called Americans, you get your freedom. So a lot of black Americans escaped and went and fought for the British. They were even segregated. They fought in Ethiopian regiments. They had they were the actual freedom fighters. They were the actual freedom fighters in the American revolutions. They had T-shirts and that said "Freedom to the slave." They were fighting.
What I'm saying, not all of them are Americans. Some of them are from the Caribbean islands.
No, what I'm trying to tell you, yes, the British operation was in Sierra Leone.
Right, but they also
it was in Sierra Leone. They had nothing to do with Liberia.
But what I'm saying, the islanders, because it wasn't only Black Americans that resettled there. They were the majority. But
it was about 50-50.
There were Caribbeans too.
It was 50-50. And I'm telling you that the Caribbean influence is very strong in Liberia, even in the food, in the language. Because look, if you listen carefully, just go on YouTube and just listen to somebody from, let's say, Barbados, and then close your eyes and then listen to somebody from Liberia speak. Okay?
Right.
The reason is there were more recent arrivals, and they came in larger numbers. Okay? About 3,000 of them came. So we have settlements in Liberia after that, just like we have settlements like Maryland, Virginia, all those places in Liberia. We also have people like Caribbean influence. Right now, Barbados is offering citizenship to people in Liberia who are of Barbadian descent. Can you imagine? So
you know, there's actually like what you said. There's a whole video that I
there is.
have here on this Liberia. They call it America's Stepchild.
Yes, I know that
Listen to
video.
this real quick. Just
The Liberian national anthem may not sound familiar, but the history and heritage of this tiny country, 3.5 million people on the coast of West Africa, indelibly link it to the United States. While indigenous Africans have thrived here for centuries, Liberia, it means land of freedom.
And yes, this is fair use. Okay, so Liberia meaning land of free, but let's hear what she say here quick.
Was also settled in the early 1800s by freed American slaves. They were bankrolled by some unlikely partners. Abolitionists eager to give African Americans their own nation. Southern.
You hear that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was bankrolled by a colonization society. So
NGO, like I told you, Liberia was started by an NGO, non-governmental organization,
NGO, right?
Non-governmental organization. It wasn't set up by the East Indian Trading Company.
Which makes
like it wasn't. It's like this. The East Indian Trading Company that was used by the British to go in and look for ways to make money. Do you understand what I mean? Exploit the people. The whole when you brought up Congo, that was a tragedy. Enslaving Africans on their own land, chopping off their limbs. That is money, a money grab. Okay, and you go in and you set up certain amount of infrastructure. But to say that Liberia is the same as other African countries as far as colonization, yeah, I conceded the point. And I also told you the point that I will concede is Liberia was never colonized by a European power, which, with the exception of Ethiopia,
with the exception of even Ethiopia was briefly colonized, but
briefly.
Yeah, they were.
But Liberia was never.
Well, okay, let's hear this.
Where's the European country?
Hold on. Let's hear this. They're telling us it's bankrolled by not European but American white,
rebellion
and
Christian missionaries keen to spread the gospel.
This is their Plymouth Rock. It's actually called Providence Island.
So would you call the Mayflower, story migrating to America, the Pilgrims, would you call them a colonialist?
The Pilgrims?
Yeah.
That Pilgrim story is fake, for one thing.
No.
Yeah, because this whole mythology, this whole mythology of Europeans fleeing Europe to get free, to get.
Wait a minute.
What I'm telling you is that it was a straight up the so-called Mayflower. Okay, is a fake story, just like Thanksgiving is a fake story about.
Wait a minute. So
telling you,
the black people that went to Liberia, right?
They
see their migration there as their Mayflower. So obviously, as far as we know, this happened.
Yes, that happened.
We have black
and I acknowledge that it happened. So what I'm trying to say to you is,
trying
to say to you is that those so-called pilgrims were, in fact, British agents who were there sent to colonize and control a land for Britain.
Okay, but what I'm saying is
the mission of America in Liberia was not to go to Liberia and capture a piece of Africa for America's exploitation.
Okay, so you're telling me that, right?
That's why you never had American.
We do know the Europeans that came from Europe, whether the story is fake or not, they are here, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the black Americans,
and it's shown that America was colonized by Great Britain.
So the
king. But
what I'm saying, just let me. If you go to Liberia, the story that black Americans went there and they equate their story to the Mayflower, the Pilgrims, that also is real. So
let me tell you this. The
but my
story
question to
of
you,
Black Americans coming to Liberia is a much more noble story than a fake ass
okay,
European story of
okay,
British going
well,
to colonize Native Americans.
okay, so
The fact is, yes, like I said, when God makes a move, the devil is also busy. Yes, where there are conflicts, yes. You know, so what I'm saying to you is the history of Liberia, the story of Black people leaving America and coming to settle in Liberia, okay, is a story of people fleeing oppression,
okay,
trying
I
to.
get. Wait, the
It's
great
not the
African,
same thing.
great African.
Yeah,
I get where you're going. You are adding your own sentiments and what you
it's not
think.
my own
No,
sentiment.
wait. Well,
It
let me.
is.
Well,
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, you are
I mean,
adding.
we can
What I'm
argue
saying,
the point of Liberia becoming being a
the
colony.
question
Go
that
ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
asking, right?
Mm-hmm.
The story of the Pilgrims
Right.
inspired the Black Americans that
No,
went
not the
out.
story of the Pilgrims. That had nothing to do with the damn Pilgrims. I'm
Well,
sorry. Listen, the Pilgrims had nothing to do. The
but you
Pilgrims are the
see,
ones who enslaved the
you're
Black
not letting.
Americans.
But what I'm saying,
They're not inspired by some slave owners.
but you're not
They're not
letting me
inspired by
speak.
that. There's Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, you gotta let me finish.
Go ahead, bro.
So they're inspired. They see their story to be similar to the Pilgrims. So, but if we go by what you're saying, you said the Pilgrims, they were sent here by the British to hold land
Correct.
for colonialists. But now we do have a group, because they said they're a Christian group, NGO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who, in their name, there is colonization. You can go backtrack and see they
Mm-hmm.
invested in colonization in other places as well. So
Uh-huh.
now they sponsored this group. Can't we say the same thing, that okay, since the slave owners wanted to, reduce the number of slaves, they, these people want to go to Africa, so they are used as the agents to hold land for their, for this
For
colonization
who?
organization, the colonizers.
Okay. So where was
Because
the
what
American
I'm saying,
flag that was
what
put
I'm
in
saying,
place
they
in
are not.
Liberia?
What I'm saying, they are not. They sponsored it. They funded this trip.
Brother,
They gave them money. They
before I
bankrolled
forget,
it.
before I lose my chain of thought, bro, it's like this. This is where my point makes sense. Okay? The pilgrims arrived in 16 something. Okay? And then in 1776, until 1776, it was a British colony. You
Yeah, the
understand?
pilgrims.
It was a British colony.
Well, what
So
I'm
you know,
saying,
but listen though,
this is
I'm just
Africa.
making a
Hold
point.
on, we're getting off subject. But hold on, let me
But
play
you're not
this.
letting me finish.
Hold on, let me play this. This would help you with your.
No. Let me
Hold on,
finish.
give me 1 second, just 1 second.
Island, where the first group of settlers arrived nearly 200 years ago on their own version of the Mayflower. But while they crossed the ocean in
You hear that? We'll let the white woman keep
Oh,
talking.
no,
1 second.
but the white woman
the
is telling a
opposite
story
direction.
No,
from her.
yeah, let's allow the white woman to talk. Just give me 1 second.
That's what we
They
do in
never
Africa. We
really
always let
left
the white people
America
talk.
behind.
The newcomers transplanted everything from the flag, it looks just like ours, to the map.
The beginning of a flag, you show up, you plant your flag. That's the sign for colonization. You change the name of the country, you change the language and the religion. Let's continue.
There's a county here called Maryland. The capital, Monrovia, is named for U.S. President James Monroe. And there,
The place was named after, obviously, a former president of
We
the
know the
United.
history of Liberia. We know. We got
Yeah.
Maryland, we got Virginia, we got
So,
Mississippi. We got all
okay,
those places in Liberia.
okay.
their first
But that's not
president,
my
Joseph
point.
J. Roberts, was born in Virginia.
So just like in these colonies, our governors, former governors, they were either born in Scotland or in England. It's no different.
The official language here is English and the standard of currency, the dollar. Liberians celebrate most everything American, including former U.S. President George W. Bush, who gave Liberia $2 billion in aid and debt relief. They even wrote him a song.
Thank you for that relief. Just was taken.
But while Liberians are grateful for American help, this nation is now struggling to establish its own identity and move beyond.
So the only time they talk about a country's own identity is when they move from colonization, from being a colony to eventually trying to be themselves. But, wait, this is almost over. Wait, this is almost over. Wait.
Beyond its traditional ties.
So most Liberians feel that America and Liberia have this link. And to a large extent, most Liberians even feel that Liberia is, in a sense, part of America. And sometimes people say we are the stepchild of America.
See, in Gambia, we would never say we are part of Britain. Even though people would say, oh, you guys are colonized. People never think that way. But I'm telling you, like, I mean, I guess we're just going, you know,
we're going in circles. I mean,
but this is good though. We're almost, you know, I'm glad you came in though. We're almost at the end of the show here. It was really nice to have you here to, you know, fight for your country not being colonized. But I'll give you the last word.
Okay, I appreciate it. So I'll just end it by saying that Liberia was never colonized, is the only country on the continent of Africa to have never been colonized by European powers. Liberia was set up as a place of refuge for Black people all over the world. It was Pan-African country before it became a Pan-Africanist movement. Okay, so Liberia is very unique in that sense. And, you know, so I called in on a different topic, but we ended up going into this colonization or not, but it's all good. But thanks for having me on. And I encourage everybody to learn about Liberia. Read Liberia Declaration of Independence, please.
Yes, I'll actually, next topic, because I want to do a video review, you know, as of recent from Liberia. So I would, you know, when I announce that, I would love to have you, you know, to come in.
Yeah, just hit me up. I have if you look me up, Great African, I don't have a YouTube channel per se. I put up things about my project. You can find me on YouTube.
Oh, you're on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, if you click on me, you'll see, if you click on Great African, it'll take you to my, it's not a real channel, like I said. It's just, I put up my agricultural projects that I'm doing in Liberia. I put links on there. So you can just send me a message. Otherwise, if I don't hear from you, I'll reach out to you. So I'm not into all the social media things like that yet. But yeah. So yeah, it's great, man. We can have these discussions. Well, it's good.
Well, you know, it's cool. I like your energy. So like over here at the Afridamus Report, I understand people, you know, like to, you know, use the words and make things sound nice and stuff. You know, I just want to lay it out, you know, like what you're seeing, you know, exactly what it is, because I get it. They use tricky words. To try to tell us Liberia is not colonized, but we know better. We know that they're
look,
colonized.
we can say that, but I think there's certain facts. There's certain indisputable facts.
Yeah.
The first fact, and it's not anything you can argue, Liberia is the only country to never be colonized by European powers.
By white people, but it was colonized by Black Americans. That's also
if you want to say that, hey, I guess you can say that, you know. But my fact is my fact, bro. There's never a Union Jack flying in Liberia. There was never any Portuguese flag flying in Liberia.
They had the Lone Star flying there.
It is the one that we created. That flag was created by a Black woman. You understand what I mean?
American
Susanna Lewis. Yes, she was a Black American woman. She came home. It's different. We have a Black people coming home versus a European oppressor coming to take you as a slave. It's not even the same. It's not close. Susanna Lewis is not Martha Washington.
Okay.
You understand? There's a difference.
Well, I know, I get it. You know, like, even though when you read and they promote the story of the pilgrims, the Mayflower, I mean, the blacks that went there, they saw themselves as the pilgrims. But you know,
Yeah, some of
for
them,
me,
like I said, bro, I love my country.
it is a
I love
beautiful
my
story. I love the
I love my
Liberian story.
country,
Yeah.
including the black Americans that came there too.
Yes.
The country was not possible
Mhm.
without them. It was also not possible without the indigenous people, okay, who told them they can sit down over here. You understand what I mean? So I'm gonna say one more thing. Liberia has the best food in Africa, period. And our jollof rice is better than the Gambian.
What? You know
Liberia has the best food.
But why do you think they even call it jollof rice?
It came from there, but we made it better.
No.
It came from Gambia.
It came from Gambia.
It's the jollof people, but we make it better than you.
No. You know what? I'll have to have you back here. I'll have to have you back.
We're gonna start a jollof war here, bro. So
yeah. You helped the Nigerians escape this time, but we will have the Nigerians back again.
Okay, bro. Have a good one, man. Nice talking with you.
Hey, same here. Guys, that was a great conversation. You know, this is what I enjoy when we're talking about a country, right? Some of these people, they just come out here, they start getting upset. How dare you talk about my country, blah, blah. No, it's supposed to be healthy. Like Great African came here. You know, we can agree to disagree. He said, his country is not colonized. He's standing his ground. That's great. And the Nigerians, they would cry in the chat room, but Tunaya comes up here to represent them as well. And for those of you that are saying, I hate this group, I hate that group. Look, if I talk about a country or a group, that doesn't mean I hate them. And Audrey, you understand this. The way I talk about Nigerians, what other country I talk about that way? So it's all about a friendly way. Even though he's saying their country have best jollof rice, I totally disagree. That would be a completely different topic from this one. I'll have to bring that again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been great. I enjoyed talking to all of you today on this, Merry Christmas. I'm reporting from an undisclosed African country. When people say I cannot enter their African countries, be careful. I'm not going to name names, but be careful. I can enter anywhere I want with my American passport. And with that being said, I will see you guys again pretty soon. Enjoy.